Hey, y'all. Happy whatever time of day it is for you, and once you have come across this video. Man, let me tell you, this is the third time I've actually attempted to record this. I swear, my camera was doing something weird at one point in the videos when I recorded the first two times. It like would freeze. So, if I'm being honest with you, the first two times I recorded this video, or I attempted to, I actually was very emotional. So maybe that was God, stopping it like, no, I'm not going to have you put this video out there like that. Because I got angry in one and then I got teary-eyed in the other. But nonetheless, we are here to discuss chapters 4 and 5 in our copy of The Urgent Life by Bozoma St. John. So, before we get into it, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. All right. Now, like I was saying, I got emotional because these next two chapters for me were pretty deep, pretty heavy. 4 is definitely heavy because it deals with a sensitive subject for all. And then 5 got heavy because it deals with the sensitive subject of specifically for me and probably many women like me and Bozoma that, go through the whole dating diaspora. All right, so I'm going to try to get this out quick. I'm not going to waste any time. I'm going to jump right into it. So chapter 4, it's called The First Loss. So she starts the book out she starts the chapter out in the book returning home after being with Peter, and they've learned that the illness is terminal. So now they have an idea of how much time he has left. And, she's retired to that and accepted it for what it is. So she goes home. She feeds her daughter, bathes her daughter. She takes a shower. She just unpacks everything mentally and goes to sleep. And yeah, she's accepted it. So, like I mentioned before, she vacillates between time periods. So after that, she jumps into when she was at college. So she spoke about how she was a resident assistant at Wesleyan University. I think their dorm was called Clark. Because when I read it, I was like, Clark? You didn't go to Clark, Atlanta? But no, it was I guess a dorm or a house called Clark. And she spoke about how she being a black girl at a PWI during the time she was attending. This was around the time when there was a lot of racial and social unrest due to the O.J. Simpson trial, Rodney King. So I can just imagine her being an RA, having to have a neutral stance, but also being so steeped in her blackness, the code switching she would have to do, and the emotional toll it may have taken on her. So, having to be in that dichotomy of having two identities. Well, in her case, she had a few, because you have to be the RA, which is neutral. Then you are African American, so you're going to be on one side when it comes to racial, issues. But then she also leans into the fact that she was not an immigrant, but she was a child of immigrants and she was African. So she also had that experience as an immigrant student. Well, at least she had the experience she could draw from her father, because she mentioned as an RA how she was very sensitive about the students that lived far away and couldn't go back home. So she made sure to make them feel welcomed and warmed, or especially around the holidays, because she thought back to when her dad was a student at Wesleyan and he was far away from home. She spoke about how she had a love for Tupac, as most people do. And she taught a course. She taught a course on the life of Tupac. She got the inspiration from, and I wrote this down because I wanted to read about it. She got the inspiration from a course she had discovered that was being offered at USC, University of Southern California. And it focused on Tupac's music. So she said she didn't see why Wesleyan couldn't do something similar. So she approached one of her professors. I'm assuming there weren't a lot of black professors, so he was a biracial professor. And she thought that he would be someone that, could help her see this course through if they were to start something like this. She said when she had asked him if he was willing to teach the class, he didn't mince words. This is page 48 in chapter 4. She says, I have no interest. Well, he says, I have no interest in that at all, he said curtly. But if you write the curriculum and petition the dean to put it on the schedule, I'll sponsor it. So she took that as a dare. She wrote the syllabus, presented it to her dean. At first, he said he did not want to. He didn't see it being offered to students for full credit, but he would offer it as an elective for half credit. So she got the green light. He said, I don't see professors finding time on their schedule to teach this course, so why don't you teach the course? And so your girl not only got an idea, broached her superiors for it, right? Got the green light. She was a student professor teaching a course on the life of Tupac and his music. And I thought that was pretty cool because I had never heard of anything like that. Another reason why she's a badass, right? She said that, so once she got the green light and she told the professor, but then she told the professor she was going to be teaching the course, he didn't seem to really like that. So I think a little bit of hateration was happening on the professor. I mean, you didn't believe in her, so, or you didn't believe in the subject, so she went out and carved out a niche for herself. You go, girl. So she said she was teaching this course on Thursdays and still carrying her load as a student, but that probably taught her how to multitask. So then she talks about, she mentions a couple of times in both chapters how she had always wanted Black love. So it was something she wanted. Her dad especially wanted her to marry a Black man, preferably Ghanaian, but, she said, where was I going to find a Ghanaian man in America? So, she wanted Black love. She attempted to have Black love. She was dating this boy named Levert. He had liked her, but he was playing her. He was a little bit of a playboy. So he kind of kept their relationship a secret, and she was thinking it was out of this romantic gesture to protect their relationship. Come to find out, no, he was just a hoe and didn't want the other girls to find out about her. So that broke her heart, of course, and she ended up dating who liked her. So this is when she gets into her boyfriend, Ben. So Ben was a student. He was from Switzerland. His family had money, and he would always hang around, I guess, Black students. He had an affinity towards the Black culture. So they would see each other, I guess, frequently at poetry slams or poetry readings or whatever, or open mic night. And he would sometimes rap. So he was drawn to her. He pursued her and, loved her, treated her well. She said that he wrote songs about her, and she liked that when he wrote songs and he rapped, his songs were esoteric, metaphysical, spiritual, never really disrespectful towards women. And so that's what drew her to him, is that he was respectful, even not being of the culture. He embraced an element of the culture, an aspect of the culture, and was respectful with it, which I understand that too. It's nice when you hear rap that is not disrespectful, because it gives rap such a bad name. I mean, I get it's telling a story, but disrespecting women and just what they bring to the table, it's a shame, because I've actually been told that. I couldn't even argue this with a former colleague when he was talking about country music and rap, and he was saying how we don't disrespect our women in the music. And I couldn't even fight him on that. I couldn't even fight him on that. So I get that. So like I said, she said Ben was very good to her, but she noticed that he had he demonstrated behaviors of mental illness. Now, she wasn't 100% sure, because of course she's not a doctor, she can't diagnose him, but because she had gone through her own battle of depression when she was in high school, because she had that health scare, she recognized certain behaviors that he had that kind of mirrored what she displayed. So she mentions that once she noticed this switch, she noticed that he started doing bad in school. He was even starting to behave strangely towards her, but it got worse once he got kicked out of school and had to go back home because I guess he was there on a student visa, is it? And when you flunk out of school, then you have to go back. So once he went back, um, she said that it got worse. He got more controlling. He was emotionally abusive towards her, would say cruel things to her, even told her one time, because he thought she was cheating, couldn't prove it, thought she was cheating, and said he had a girl in the apartment to hurt her. He would do things intentionally to hurt her. And that kind of triggered me too, because I actually was with someone that would say cruel things to hurt me. Like, he even said one time, I wish I would have never stopped talking to the girls that I stopped talking to for you, because I was deciding to leave him and I was just tired of it. And, it's like, you don't say shit like that and get under people's skin. Like, that's so wrong. But anywho, so this is where it gets a little intense. So she says she noticed with his increasing irrational behavior that he was also starting to engage in self-destructive behaviors. So he was doing drugs, he was smoking a lot of weed and alcohol, drinking a lot of alcohol. And of course, that's going to alter someone's mood and psyche. So the threats became worse, the emotional and verbal abuse became worse, and she just got tired of it. One night he was blowing her phone up incessantly. She decided, no, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm going to hang out with my friends, and, I'll talk to you when I get back. While she was out with her friends, she mentioned how one of her friends, Leander, had asked her if she really liked Ben. And so, because she's trying to save face, she was, trying to be tough and say, no, I don't really like him. You know how you do the whole tough girl guy act when you're trying to protect your heart and you don't want people to look at you as weak. So you say the damnedest things and the worst things about that person to just kind of like discredit them and not show the person that person still does have your heart. But she said, even though she was telling them that Ben did still have her heart. So when the events that happened later took place, it hurt, because she gets back home and she sees that her answer machine has so many blinking messages. She checks them. I guess Ben had left a message on there that he was going to go to a bridge and off himself. And when she heard it, she's like, well, he always, she had gotten used to him emotionally abusing her and gaslighting her and threatening her, right? So she didn't think anything of it until she tried to call him and he didn't return any of her calls. So then she got worried. She called his people in Switzerland, his friends and his parents, or I guess the friends called the parents, and told them what was going on. And they were shocked, because I guess they hadn't had really a relationship with her. So to hear someone calling from the States about their son who lives in the same country with them, of course that's going to throw you're like, what? So they got involved, alerted the authorities, and sure enough, they found his body, and Ben had committed suicide. So she says that because she was downplaying how much she loved him, and then she wasn't able to make peace with him, and then he left, that she would never ever do that again. She would never downplay a situation or try to make herself feel more important. When her heart is really engaged into it, she's going to speak truth into it and be honest about her feelings, because words have consequences, and she didn't want to live with that guilt again, because I think to this day that still gets to her, that she downplayed the love that she had for Ben, and then he was gone the next day. So I think I highlighted something on page 63 and 64, but I think I summarized it pretty good. Oh, okay, no, 64, I do want to read this passage. So she says, years later, no, this is page 63. years later, when a friend asks me about somebody I'm not supposed to love, about a situation that I'm supposed to be bigger than, I tell the truth about what I'm feeling instead of faking bravado because I fear looking weak. I say the truth out loud because I believe words have power and the words have consequences. So I did say that part. And then on page 64, she says that she had to forgive herself, but it took years, and she still hasn't done it completely. So she had to learn that that too is okay. She said that Ben's death was not the last time. In the face of tragedy, she would feel that she could have done more, and she would have to learn what she could control and how to let go of what she could not. So, yeah, that was chapter 4. Now, chapter 5. So, um, there's something in this that triggers me. I'm just gonna let you know because it is a sensitive topic. It's something that still angers me because it's like love who loves you, right? But let's go ahead and start with the beginning scene in chapter 5. So again, she's going back to another time period. She's back in the hospital with Peter. And so I guess Peter had been at the hospital for a long period of time, but gotten clearance to go back home and finish off his treatment because, you know, it was terminal. So it's like he wants to spend his last days at home. So they called friends, family, everyone to come in and pack his stuff. He had been there for a while, so there was a lot of things to take back to the apartments. They were actually living separate. So she had her place, he had his place. They had been separated for 3 years. So when he decided to go back home, they had decided to reconcile because he figured and they figured, you know, if he's got not so much time left, they may as well spend it together as a family. That's what Peter wanted. So, she said when they got back, they partied. They had the friends over. Everybody was drinking. They ordered food because they just wanted to feel as much normal as they could, even though the doom was looming in the background. She even says at one point at the party that it felt like an out-of-body experience. Like she was present, but not really present. And I get that. I get that. That's how I felt during the time I was burying my husband. Like, it was like I was here, but I was a shell of who I was. I was on autopilot. I was not, it was like, I'm surprised I was able to plan all that stuff. You know, it's, I get it. I get it. So, speaking of plan, let me see. I think I highlighted on 68. Yes, yes. So she spoke about how, before I read this passage, how thinking about the things to come, they had discussed it together. You know, they would have to plan the funeral. They would have to make sure all of their financial affairs were in order, stocks, money market accounts, their insurance policies, like everything. That's got to be heavy. I don't know. That's probably because I had to just do it. My husband was abruptly killed, and then I had to figure all that stuff out. But I was asking him weeks before, and it's funny because it's like God was speaking to me. I was asking him weeks before for all of this information. It was like I felt something. So to like hear someone from the point of view of planning for a death, and this, mind you, this man is young. That's gotta be a lot because it's like you're planning basically to be a single mom and you know this person's gonna be gone, but at least you're able to have that closure, you know, that closure and accept things for what they are and prepare as properly as you can because I mean, yeah, you can prepare all you want, but you're gonna live with that grief forever. So that was an interesting insight. So she speaks about like once they've decided to come back together, how they had kissed and they hadn't kissed in nearly 3 years. This is page 68. So she says, not since our marriage began to fray, we hadn't kissed in nearly 3 years. So in some ways it was like a first kiss, but also different. No butterflies welled up inside. It felt deeper. It felt like forgiveness, like he was forgiving me for all the things I'd done to hurt him, and I was forgiving him for dying, for leaving us with little time to love. So that was powerful because, you know, it's like you get this second chance to reconcile and do it right before time, you know, runs out. That's why, you know, I I was choosing to be super intentional with my last love, because that was the attitude I had, is that we don't know what is promised, but it just turns out that the person I was with wasn't a good fit. So, but all right. Let's see. I think I covered that. Oh, okay. So this was something that she also attempted to prepare for, but she says it's almost as if her and Peter switched personalities, because as I mentioned before, Peter liked to make lists, whereas she was more of a spontaneous person, and kind of did things as they came. And they found themselves in opposite roles, because she knew she had to plan, because she's the one that's going to have to go on without him with their daughter. But these are his last days, so the last thing he really wants to think about is planning for his death. That's got to be tough. It's like, it's coming. You want to spend your last days just being happy, right? Just being as happy as you can be. So yeah, that was a lot. But she mentions how, in addition to everything else she was asking him to do, she had asked him specifically to sign some cards that she got for Lael. So she, thinking about all of the firsts that he was going to miss, because Lael was 4 when he passed away. That's extremely young. So 5th birthday, they have 5th birthday cards. Sweet 16, graduating from 8th grade, losing a first tooth. Like, she had gotten all those cards and asked him to sign them, and he kept putting it off. He did not want us to do that. And I'm torn on that, because I understand her need to do this. This is for their child. So she wants their child to have that, as much connection to her father as she can. I mean, he was really young. My daughter was 7, so she had a little bit more memory, but Lael, she probably didn't have as many memories with her dad, especially with them living apart. Oh, so I get it. I get why Bozoma was trying to will that, so that Lael had those pieces of her dad with the first milestones in her life. But then on the flip side, I get why Peter just couldn't do it. He could not. I could not see myself. I would really have to muster up the strength to, if I knew I was dying, write to my daughter, congratulations on this, knowing that I'm not going to be there, knowing that I'm not going to see it. So that's what I said. These 2 chapters are kind of heavy. Thank God, I guess I had the first 2 attempts right, because man, when I tell you I was not in my chipper self, it was hard. Ooh, it was hard. All right, so then, okay, now she's going back to another time. So this time she's speaking about high school. And she talks about how, like, teachers would mispronounce her name, and she would always have to, deal with that. That's funny, because that's the same thing with me. I've gotten to a point where I just don't even give it an issue. But I think I'm going to start demanding that again, because people do need to respect my name. So she says that her parents, they were not the type to assimilate fully. They embraced their duality. So instead of ordering pizza and cooking meatloaf, how she would have friends over, they would have fufu and soup. And so her house was proudly Ghanaian. She spoke about how she had a best friend named Summer, and Summer was white. And being friends with Summer reminded her of the privilege that Summer had, and the privilege that Bozoma did not have so much. So in terms of getting hired or looked at for certain things, Bozoma would get overlooked. Super qualified, stellar credentials, but you know how it is. So, but she wasn't bitter behind that, because she, again, really, really proud of who she is. Her parents, they instill that pride in her. She's very assured about who she is. So it didn't bother her that, she got overlooked or felt othered, because she just said, well, maybe I'm just not in the right place. Because, she's in Connecticut, which is mostly white. And I guess the school she went to was predominantly white as well. She says she wanted a black boyfriend, but the selection was limited there. And she says that white boys were into her. namely this guy named Joe, who she actually thought was into her friend Summer, but turns out Joe had a thing for her, and she didn't know this until they went to a party, and there was a jacuzzi there, and Bozoma was in like this cute little, it wasn't a bathing suit, it was undergarments, but it was really cute, and it was white and ivory, so with her chocolate skin, she probably was looking like a Barbie doll to Mr. Joe, and she caught Joe checking her out, and then he came over to the sauna and sat with her, so there was an instant attraction there. They started kind of hanging out. He wooed her. He brought her tulips. Like, he was really sweet to her. But they never made it official. It was just kind of like a committed but non-labeled relationship. So when it came time for them to go to high school, she said that, not high school, I'm sorry, college, when they graduated high school, she said, you know, it was a YOLO moment. She was like, look, forget all this. They were out one night. She pulled him close, kissed him. It got passionate. She said, hey, I'm going to be here. You're going to be there. So let's do this. And, you know, Joe took her V card. So then again, she goes back to that whole sentiment in college, wanting to have a black boyfriend. And she's speaking about this. She says that, you know, she felt othered and she wanted black love, but she met Ben, and Ben treated her right, you know, and her friends would ask her, like, what is it like being with the white guy? And she said, you know, there's no drama. They treat me nice. I don't have to guess how I feel, and, you know, they don't make me feel less than. It was like she was just explaining how the experience, comparing it to the one experience she did have to the experience she had with them. And I totally get that. I totally get that. That is part of the reason why I had to pull out of this last relationship, because my husband was Caucasian. He was Scottish American, treated me like a queen. Yeah, we had our ups and downs, but as far as me feeling secure in our relationship, I had no insecurities. Even when I had gotten to a point where I was overweight, he still loved me. He still loved me, and we had been emotionally separated for 3 years, and I'm just going to keep it all the way real. We hadn't had sex for 3 years because he had broken my trust. But even in that, I did not feel insecure with this man because he just treated me well. And then when I got with this recent dude, I did feel insecure because he just did things and moved kind of foul, and we could never get our footing back from that because he didn't want to accept the responsibility, and we couldn't discuss it. Like, we couldn't close the issue with conversation in a calm way. He was always pushing it off. So then I felt like I was always chasing him for his validation and, you know, the need to be loved and heard. And I just had to realize, you know what, if you're going to have to keep chasing him, then that's not the man for you. Because like I said, I had that love before. I had already saw that if this was with this person and they did this, we would have already discussed it and they would have understood why I was insecure. So yeah, that hit home because I really wanted to make it work with that person. I saw a future with that person, but you know, when you're treated well, you can't go back. So yeah, this one was hitting home for me. So she says that she had never felt othered, even being in interracial relationships, until she went to Switzerland to Ben's funeral. So she said she got there and she had never felt the whiteness in their relationship making her feel a certain type of way until being around them. They were very cold. They didn't really ask her a lot of questions. They kind of treated her like she was a supporting character. And it's like, no, this was his girlfriend. But, you know, I guess they didn't know much about her or respect her enough to even care. So she said after that, she would never put herself in a situation like that again until fast forward to when she meets Peter. So Peter's family didn't accept her. They were not openly, but she could tell because she didn't get a warm welcome one weekend. She recalls when they went to visit them at their house, and she mentions how the house was kind of old and creaky. This ties into something. So she's one day, Peter and his sister, they're talking in the kitchen and she could hear them talking. And so the sister is like kind of protesting, like, what do you see in her? Do you really like her? Is this someone you really want to be with? Like, that's not even your type, yada, yada, yada. Is this, you sure this isn't a fling? And she's listening, and they didn't know she was eavesdropping until it was a creak. So then, of course, she has to go downstairs now, and she tried to play it off. They also tried to play it off, but Bozema being Bozema, she was vivacious and bold then. She came out and said, you know what, to the sister and the mom, I'm not sure about this relationship either, but Peter and I love each other and we're going to fight for each other. So, to the mom, Mrs. St. John, may I please have my morning tea? Left everybody speechless. And so Peter, he loved that and went to hug her, and she, she was like, hey, if we're going to have to fight for each other, we're going to fight for each other. It is what it is. I get that. I totally get that. So now, let's see. Oh, okay. So the fighting, because as much as I felt secure in my relationship with my husband, there were differences that did come up that were racially divisive between the two of us. 2016 election, he and I didn't even really talk about it. I respected his views, he respected my views, but we were on different sides. And after that, because that was our first election together as a couple, because we got together in 2013, and the next election, which was 2020, we didn't talk about, we didn't even see each other's ballot. So we kind of left that alone, but that was one. And then just like recognizing microaggressions too, and I really would get upset with him because I'm like, it's not just about me. You are raising a half black child, so you need to be in tune with these types of things. You can't afford to wear the rose colored glasses. But she mentions this, being a white male, where it's predominantly, this country is laid out for you. You have the lay of the land. You don't have to be so hyper vigilant about things dealing with like microaggressions or racism, because the world is yours. So you're not necessarily going to understand, off the top of your head, the things that we deal with. I mean, even though he had read that book with her and they related and he understood, he didn't really understand in depth. So when they would run into, different topics and certain situations, she felt out of place and she felt alone. Like there was one time she mentions in the book where they're shopping, right? And Peter's all excited, picking out these different pieces of clothes for her. And there's two white girls eyeing him, kind of judging her, looking at her like, what is he doing with her? So Bozema got defensive about that because she felt that was disrespectful, and she called them out and said, yes, that's my man. And Peter, not understanding what she was doing, he approached her and made it seem like she was being confrontational. And so she recounts how she did not feel protected, more or less, in that situation, and that she realized that Peter didn't understand the rules and she was going to have to teach him the rules. So it's like things like that that they do pose a problem on relationships. But you just got to have patience. And now that if I ever were to get in another interracial relationship, which who knows what God has for me, I won't be as sensitive about that going forward. I would just, hope that we have an understanding. And then when those situations come up, we can kind of just discuss them at length, but then leave with peace of mind and a respect where we're different. So agree to disagree and continue to love each other, and instead of feeling that angst in that area, at least, especially if there's so much love in other areas. Life's too short to be hung up on things that are really not of your control. So now this is what really got to me, and I'm gonna try to not go there, right? Okay. So she mentions how so just like the white girls would give her looks, the black men would also give Peter looks. And some of them would be blatantly disrespectful and just say things to her. So I'm going to recall a situation. This is on pages 83 through 84. And then there's one sentence I highlighted in 85. So she says, when black men talk shit, saying things like, hey, queen, are you confused? When you get tired of him, I'll be waiting for you to come back home. Peter would usually glare and hold his tongue and hold me tighter. All the jousting didn't make me feel desirable. I didn't think, wow, everyone wants me. Instead, it made me feel sad and resentful. And I get that. Black men had often rejected me. When my girlfriends and I occasionally traveled to another campus for parties in college, the black fraternity brothers left me to spend the night nursing a drink or swaying by myself in the corner. When I was alone on the street, they'd barely nod if they looked my way at all. Levert, the black guy I dated my freshman year, didn't even claim me as his girl, and the few other black men I dated when I moved to New York seemed to lose interest quickly. The closest I got to black romantic love was watching it play out in front of me on a movie or a TV screen. So why all of a sudden did brothers want to challenge Peter? I realized that it wasn't really about me at all. It was about the principle of the thing. They were bothered that I was with someone who wasn't one of them. Even though I didn't want anybody but Peter, that realization stung. So yeah, like that's like, that irks me, because that's what happened with me. Like when I moved to Georgia, I noticed it a lot. When me and my husband first got here, black men would like look at him like with respect, but like look at me with disgust. And I think that might be a Southern thing, but a black male thing, I think that's all over the board, because it's like, okay, I say Southern because it's like, okay, you're respecting him, but you looking at me like I'm trash. Don't like that. Another reason why it triggers me is this recent person I was with. That's one of his things he judges me on, and he basically questions my blackness because I chose to marry outside of my race, and I did so because, I'm sorry, I just felt more safe. And this man proposed to me. Black men, they're at least like that age or whatever, they weren't trying to be committed, and they couldn't really be committed and treat me well. So don't be mad because someone chose to step up to the plate, saw the value in me, and snatched me off the market and did right by me. Because this man, my late husband, he wasn't perfect, but he respected my beliefs. He challenged himself to better himself for me. And whenever I would suggest things to him, he would listen. He would at least try to regard. He wouldn't necessarily like agree immediately, but he wouldn't give me problems. He wouldn't be disrespectful, because that messes with the woman's security as well. Whereas with this dude, this recent dude, he came into the situation initially doing things foul, altering my security, and would never ever want to really be apologetic about it. And then the way he spoke, he was disrespectful. His tone was so disrespectful. So that's not going to make me feel secure. It makes me feel like I'm irritating you. And whenever I would bring a concern up to him, he would disregard it. And then before you knew it, I was turning into the problem. But then he had the nerve to be upset with me because he felt I wasn't secure. So it's like, I had to cut that out, because it's like, dude, you're gaslighting me and you don't want to have any accountability. So that was when she specifically says she was resentful, and then she talks about all the times where she tried to put herself out there for black love, and she ended up being, pushed to the wayside and not regarded. Like, I was like, exactly. It's not like we do this with intention. We just go with who loves us and who loves us properly. Because I'm just going to say it, darker skinned women, it seems like we're expected to settle. Like, we're not good enough to be treated on, like, put on a pedestal and loved. There's colorism, and then there's otherism that usually these brothers will straighten up for. But us, no, they're not always checking for us. It has to be some good moral and ethical alignment there, and spiritual alignment. But that's that's a whole other conversation for another day, as you guys hear me say. But yeah, like I was so triggered by that. So like she mentions like, okay, these times with Peter, how he could just move and there was no problem. She would be out with her friends, he would buy them drinks, she didn't feel insecure. He was a gentleman, right? He had made her feel so secure that he could just move and it wouldn't bother her, because she knew in her heart that he loved her, right? Even though she had to teach him the rules in terms of understanding like certain experiences and encounters she was going to have, his love for her never, she was never questioning it. So yeah, yeah. uh she did speak about how Peter didn't get the cues and the signs though when that stuff would happen, and that angered her, because here she is having a fight, to be respected, and respect is just given to him, and then she feels like she's beating her head up against a wall to get him to understand her. But again, it's like he doesn't know, because he didn't have to experience it. So that was like I said, that was personal, because I totally understood that. Being with my late husband. But all right, so there's this last part in the book where Peter's doorman, he was Ghanaian. So again, she's already realizing they're gonna have to fight for their love, and she says the Ghanaian doorman had asked her to speak with her about something, and this was at Peter's apartment. And she was nervous because she thought that he was going to tell her something like, to the effect of Peter cheating or whatever. And no, the man just pulled her aside and asked, are you sure you want to do this? Out of concern, because he said, I know your mom and your dad aren't here. Consider me a family member. Are you sure? And she was like, yes, I'm sure. But then she took that as, is this a warning of, should I even go through with this? Because why is everyone worried, at least for my culture, that I want to do this? So again, those two topics, two chapters, they were pretty deep. They kind of delve more into the conflict that she faced, both accepting Peter's death, deciding to go back to them as a unit, and just the issues she faced, wanting Black love but not being successful at it, and then trying to navigate through interracial love and the issues that came with that. So it's a good book. I recommend you guys buy it. If not, you can listen to my reviews. So the next chapters I'm going to recall, because I've already lined them up, I believe are 6 through 7. So 6 and 7 are also long. Oh God, I hope they're not heavy. But on a lighter note, it is now 12:37, so March 17th, early 12:37 a.m. I will actually be attending the Badass Workshop here in Atlanta tonight. So I'm going to have the opportunity to meet Miss Bozoma St. John. I'm going to have her sign my book, and just hope for the best. I know I'm going to get a lot out of this, and I'll be telling you guys all about it. I'll probably do a separate recap of that experience by itself, but we'll see how it goes. All right, guys, on that note, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Subscribe so you can get notifications of when I upload videos. Peace and blessings to you all. I appreciate the love and support, and just the care and interest that you have in my content. I hope you have a blessed day or evening or whatever time of the day you're watching this, and I will see you next time. Alrighty then. Bye.